Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario Nuri and Kirill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all gonna have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show. Alrighty, so on today's episode of Creatives Grab Coffee, we got Jason from Left Mind Media. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So just before we kind of jump right into it, tell us a little bit about yourself and the backstory behind Left Mind.
The backstory is, I mean, I could give you guys my entire career if you want, but
Just the good stuff.
Just the good stuff, yeah.
Okay, so my background personally, the good stuff is I have loved video from the beginning. Back in high school, my buddies and I made a spoof of Gone in 60 Seconds, and I thought that was like the best thing ever. And I did, a while later, just realized it was because that video really engages both parts of your brain, right? It engages there's a lot of technical stuff you got to know, but there's also a creative element to it, and I really like that kind of balance of it. And so somewhere along the way, after we created that, one of my buddies was like, I'm going to go to film school. And I was like, that's a thing? That's a job you can have? Like, that's awesome. So that's what I wanted to do. So he went a totally different route. He went off the Hollywood route. So he's down in California now. But I kind of wanted to, that path took too long for me. So I wanted to create my own stuff kind of faster than that. So I went the video route. And, it's not quite as glamorous, as you will, as maybe that, Hollywood director lifestyle or whatever. But you do get to kind of create your own stuff and you get into it a lot faster. So I really enjoyed that. So I worked at a place called Funnelbox for a while. I did some freelancing for a while, started a wedding video company, and eventually started Left Mind Media, which is designed to be the business aspect or the business branch of my company. And the idea behind the name is that the left side of the brain, supposedly anyway, is more kind of logical and analytical, and the right side of the brain is the creative side. And so I'm here saying that I'm here to solve business problems first and stroke my creative ego last, because that's what I wanted this business to be, was about solving business problems for businesses, and not being all about, I make the prettiest videos or anything like that. I want to make videos that actually solve problems for folks.
Where can we see the Gone in 60 Seconds spoof?
I think it's on YouTube somewhere, actually. Nice. It's called Not Here Anymore in About a Minute.
Okay.
And it's terrible. It's awful.
We gotta overlay it on top of this.
It's like a Meet the Spartans type spoof name, you know?
Oh my God, Meet
Yeah.
the Spartans.
Yeah, it was terrible, but you know, it was a lot of fun.
As long as you had fun, yeah, that's the most important part. We did 2 short films ourselves, and they are so bad. They're not
They
on
were
YouTube.
48 hours. They were 48-hour films that
Okay.
we did.
We're not putting them
and-
on YouTube ever.
No, because we got like such weird things that we had to include in the short films to the point where it's just like, there's no way we're gonna make this work. And then the second one was like this weird comedy spoof of a zombie apocalypse that we were trying to kind of do, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
That great.
It's man, pulling that 48 hours, that's really hard. It's an insane challenge.
Trying to come up with that story was wild, but there were some people that submitted theirs that we were watching on the last day or whatnot, and some people went all out and it looked awesome. Like we were looking at each other like, damn, we just got schooled. Like how the hell did these guys come up with that?
Well, I mean, some of those teams have been doing it for a while, right? So they've
That's
got
true.
stuff kind of canned and ready to go, and then there's like, what elements do we have to add into this? Then they just add them in and you know, put out something great.
Back then we had just started. We had just started back then. So we were kind of like still learning the industry, learning the ropes. And I found that a lot of like really good 48-hour short films, a lot of the time people had kind of like a few different caveat ideas and locations and stuff all prepped up for, and then they would just wait to see what kind of elements they needed to include, and then they would just kind of adjust their stories and their filming based on that. Whereas I don't know. We just had a condo apartment. That's all we had prepped. Couple of gear, like a little bit of gear, and then it was like, what was it? Remember, it was like a story about it was like a zombie apocalypse, but like everyone would be very happy.
I don't remember that. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know, you mentioned zombie apocalypse, and I was like, when did we shoot a zombie short film? But you're right. It was called like Happy something.
It was a plague where everyone would be very happy.
Very
when
happy,
in reality,
yeah.
people were supposed to be bitter. Like the last bitter person in the world that was left.
We did another one where our protagonist like has to steal something. Do you remember we did it at Mauto's jewelry store?
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, they were
Yeah.
garbage. The only thing I remember from those 2 shorts was how tired I was.
Oh
making
yeah.
them. Like I was exhausted. I don't know about you, Carol.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you were asleep while I was editing them, so I was really exhausted.
Yes, but they were also long days.
Yeah. I like the concept though. The concept of that zombie one sounds good.
See, the concept sounded better than the execution at the time. You know, I feel like if we had that concept now with our current capabilities of execution, it probably would be a lot better than what it was back then.
Do you want to redo it, Carol?
Maybe, why not? To do like a before and after.
Before and way before. So how long you been working?
Well, I have been making and selling videos for since about 2001.
wow.
So
Oh,
a
okay.
while. And I can say that legitimately because back, you know, when I was first getting interested, my church would put on like kids musicals, and my high school put on, my elementary school, my ex-elementary school put on talent shows, and I would film them and sell copies to the parents. So I was only making like $200, you know, a shot between me and my buddy who I mentioned. But you know, I thought it was pretty, you know, hot shit because, you know,
You're
making that
hustling,
kind of
man.
money, and
Yeah, exactly.
and I was doing what I loved doing. So that was back in the day when so particularly my church putting on the kids musicals, I had seen some of the videos that they had paid videographers to do, and it was just kind of like a guy in the back, you know, with his, you know, camera. He would zoom in, zoom out, and I was like, no, we're gonna do this multicam. And so I borrowed people's cameras and got them together, and we shot the thing. And I remember one year in particular, I had 4 cameras, and I only had iMovie to edit on. And this was back when it was, you know, like a linear platform. You only had one camera on the timeline. I remember having to go through and manually, like with math, I had to say like how many frames was this, shot, when do I want this to cut? And that's when I had to cut into the next, shot. And it was just like a real headache, but
Why did you have to use maths for it? Like, were they all different frame rates, or?
I don't know. There was something about, I just remember doing that, but there was something about the cameras that weren't lining up because I couldn't stack them on top of each other. I only had the one timeline to work with, so I could only have one camera on the timeline at a time. So I had no way of syncing them. So I just had to figure out, like, now I'm here in the the clip. So where am I in this clip? So then go to that timeline and then cut into that. So that was it was a true nightmare. I was doing it on my dad's computer at his print shop that he owned, and late into the night to try and get this thing done. But dude, yeah, it was crazy.
I know how like Final Cut and Premiere Pro can be very difficult softwares, even like from when we started, but just hearing this, I'm like, oh my God, back then that must have been like 10 years advanced. Like, what software was that you were using?
It was just iMovie.
Oh, okay, yeah, just old school iMovie,
very basic.
Like in what,
very
like
old school
2005?
iMovie.
Like 2005?
Probably 2005 or earlier. So yeah, it was a nightmare. But I made it work.
Hey, you learned with the hardest way. Honestly, it's interesting to hear how some people learn different ways of like how to edit certain things. I mean, like I got my first roots of learning how to edit things from music editing back in like 2005 and 2006 from like an old software called Techno EJ. And that gave me the foundation to understand how timelines worked, and I never knew that I would actually need it later in life.
What
and
were
I'm
you
like,
editing? The Rude Sandstorm?
Darude, yeah, old school techno Darude Sandstorm. Like it's probably somewhere in old files. I don't even know if it even exists anymore. But like it had a very similar kind of timeline setup, so that when I actually got on Premiere, I was like, oh, this is almost the exact same thing, just with a video element added in. So yeah, like the roots for how to learn editing is always interesting to hear. It's like, how did you kind of start Frankensteining your first few videos together?
Yeah, for me that was the original iMovie. That's how I started.
That's wild. Nowadays we notice that like we saw that these days you're kind of like focused on a lot of social batch content making, which always kind of intrigues Dario and I, because we know how it is to kind of like jump into a video shoot for like a single day and like creating one video like that's very specific and targeted. Whereas we're seeing a somewhat of a, maybe not a trend, but certain companies coming in with like creating huge batches of content. And yours specifically was interesting because you said 365 days worth of video content in 4 days? Like, give us a little bit of a backstory on how you kind of came up with that and how that's working out.
So there was a few elements that mashed together to create this, and it was just kind of the perfect time to create it. So I had, tried creating some of my own content and doing it in batches. And I made about, I don't know, like 40 videos-ish for myself. And then like I posted like 3 of them, so that was headache number one. Was, first of all, when you create this content, then what do you do with it, right? It's got to be edited, it's got to be posted, you have to follow up with it, do all this stuff. So that was kind of the first problem that I wanted to solve. The second problem that I wanted to solve, this came out of a book by I think it was by Phil Yoon, who talked about how he spent the first like 3 days to 4 days of the year doing his content, and he would do all of his content for the year in that first 3 to 4 days. And that was wild to me, but he had ways of manipulating footage on the back end so that he would create long form content, short form content, like podcast content, blog content, all this stuff from his original content by multiplying it and using it in different ways, right? He would do things like use the transcripts to create his blog content. And so we had that. And then there was the platform repurpose.io, which can read your content, on, at least your short form video content, on one platform and then send it out everywhere. And, they try to kind of genericize the platform, but I saw it working in a very specific way. So what I did was I came up with and then the other thing was a buddy of mine on a Facebook group had created this kind of ideation method, which allowed people to come up with about you could do 30 days of content in 2 hours. But, I looked at that again and said, all right, if you're doing 30 days of content in 2 hours, that's still 2 hours every single month that you have to dedicate to your content. So I wanted to come up with a way for people to create a massive amount of content in a really short amount of time. And another factor in this is that YouTube Shorts limit your content to be 1 minute long, or it's not considered a short. And so this kind of wave hit of, you've got all these platforms coming out, you have this short form content that's limited to 1 minute if you want it to be the same across all platforms. And you've got also the influx of AI makes it a lot easier to come up with the ideas for the content, because that's the first challenge. And then, filming it is cake at that point, because you're doing these sub 1 minute basically talking head videos. So with that, I've been able to do it successfully with, I think 6 or 7 clients so far have done it. One gentleman I'm going to fly down to San Francisco later in September to film his second 6 months, because one thing I discovered the hard way is that people really only have a tolerance for about 2 days of this. After that, they're kind of done. Even if they have all their content planned out, they're just kind of burned out of doing this stuff all day, for 2 days.
For a whole week, basically.
Yeah.
If it was 4 days, wow.
But I found that it really only takes about 6 hours, including a lunch break, to get, the 90 days worth of content that you need each day. So because they're sub 1 minute clips, people can just kind of get through them really quickly, after you kind of get them started and get the momentum going for the day. So it's actually not too hard to pull off. And then I've just got editors just editing them like crazy, going about, I'm getting about two a day out of my editors, out of one editor. So I'm shooting, that means I'm getting 40 a month. So I'm about 10 days ahead of posting. And then I'm, just posting them using a scheduler and repurpose.io. And that's it. That's all I'm doing.
So you're posting it for them, or you're just delivering the assets?
Yeah, so we're posting it for them, because I think that's another challenge that people have, right? The idea is that I'm solving the headache of content creation, because number one, it takes so much of their time. Number two, they don't have time to post it, or the staff to post it for them. There's all this stuff that goes into content creation that if I can take it all off their plate for them, it solves a massive problem that they're going to have.
In terms of planning that many videos at once, because I looked at some of them, and when I usually hear that much content is being produced in a single day, I think of something super basic in terms of what is being created. But from what I saw, it's some of them are a little bit more in depth, not so much in the editing aspect, but more so in the specific content that they're talking about. It's it doesn't sound like it's just different variations of the same content that you're doing. Is it all different, different kind of scripting, or are you also including, for example, a 16:9 or a 9:16? How do you typically break it down with someone?
So it's all of it is purpose created for social media. So it's all shot, 9:16, and the idea behind the content creation is I have multiple methods which I share with them, with the client, on how to come up with the ideas for the content. So there's things like search, find questions that people are asking on various websites, related to your niche, like just basic brainstorming, how do you come up with this stuff on your own? And then we put it through AI, and I have about a paragraph long prompt followed by like 500 different kind of posting headline formats. And we ask it to create around 50 to 100 at a time. So what you wind up with is about these blocks of like 50 they're all basically the same idea or around the same, kind of set of ideas. And then we take those, once you have that list, we put it in a spreadsheet and then randomize it. So they're right next to each other. They don't seem to be about the same thing, but you have the same ideas mixed in there. And that's because it's short form content, right? Not everyone is tuned into the same piece of short form content all the time. So it's perfectly okay to reuse ideas. In fact, you can reuse the exact same video sometimes. I've seen short form content where someone posts it, they get 1 million views, and then they just repost it later and get another 1 million views, off the exact same content. So there's really no point in, if your platform has a point, there's no point in just saying it once. You should say it multiple times. So that's kind of my ideas. You just don't want this stuff right next to each other to be exactly the same. So that's why we do the randomized mixing. And as long as you're doing that, you're going to be fine.
So you said you come up with, sorry, Carol, I'm just curious about something. So you tell your client, like, these are some of the ways to generate like the initial concepts for it. Do you do that work for them, or do you just tell them like this is how you should do it and then wait for them to send you like the basic info?
My clients are always going to be the subject matter experts in their field. So I don't come up with the ideas for them. I tell them how to come up with the ideas, and a lot of the times what my clients do is they start with this plan and then they say, oh wait, I've written a book about this. I can pull content ideas from that. Or I've written all these blogs about that. I can pull content ideas from that. It's really just a way to get them started, honestly. Half the time they're not using my methods at all, and I don't really care, as long as the ideas are coming from somewhere. So it just depends really on the client and what they've done previously, how much of kind of my advice they're relying on. But my advice, like I said, it mostly just kind of gets the ball rolling and gets them doing something that they weren't doing before, which is to lay out what all this content's going to be. Because that's all of this, all through the editing even relies on a spreadsheet being organized. And, we know what each video is about because we're just going down the list and checking them off. And we can tell that, I can tell that to my editor. I can say, like, if we put notes in the spreadsheet or something like that on the day of the shoot, because how shoots go, they get kind of crazy and messy. So we can take notes. I can put that in the spreadsheet, and then my editor, knows whatever is there. So it's all about organization and preparation, and the pre-production becomes kind of the most important part. But it's really not that difficult to do at the end of the day.
Well, you kind of also answered one of the questions that I had, which was like, how do you convince someone to go into doing that much content at once? Because I know how it is sometimes even doing like one interview for a couple of clients, and it can be very exhausting after a little while. And then you basically answered that where instead of doing 4 days, you push them for 2 days. Like, do you find that even that 2 days, they're still feeling a little bit burnt out, maybe keeping it back to doing only 90-day chunks, or how are you finding it now?
I've considered doing 90-day chunks. I feel like the problem with 90-day chunks is, again, it's 90 days is not dissimilar enough from 30 days that they're going to feel the difference. Like having 6 months of your stuff done, that's saying something. But if you have only 90 days done, then I'm going to be calling you in 30 days to set up the shoot for the next 30 days so that we can have, because we want to have 30 days. One thing we do is we edit 30 days of content before we start posting. so that in case there's anything that goes wrong, their stuff is still coming out every day, because that's important to us. So with that, with that 30-day, kind of advanced window, that really only gives you 60 days to do the other shoot. So at that point, it's like you've barely seen any content come out by the time I'm saying, hey, you want to do the next shoot? Let's schedule this.
Yeah, they can't see the results yet.
Yeah, so I feel like 2 days is a good amount of time. I feel like no one's really burned out on that until maybe last hour or so, and then they're just willing to push through it, because they're like, I'm almost done. The end is in sight at this point. So I feel like that's been a good amount of time, and then that gives us loads of footage, and we can edit that for 6 months or even more, possibly ahead of time. And again, they're only 6-hour days. So they're not super long days. It's not like on a film set where you're pushing 10, 12-hour days. It's 6 hours with a lunch break. So it's really not super harsh to put a client through that.
Is it just you who's shooting it, or do you like in terms of how does the production typically go?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It is, I shoot the ones that are local, and I'll shoot them if my client wants me to come out there. But because the organization piece is so important and the editing piece is so important, when you look at the actual production, it's kind of the least important part. So if a client doesn't want to pay to fly me out to where they are or to fly to me, then I'll just hire someone local. And as long as, I can interview them and, they're good and they have enough batteries to film for 6 hours straight, then it really anybody can do it. Anybody who can check off, that they're that they're doing it, they can all do it. And that's kind of the whole thing behind my company is I don't want to be one of those videographers who gets hired to do something like this, right? I want to be someone who's doing the hiring for a job like this.
Just producing it.
So, yeah, producer and really who's, because I'm solving business problems. That's where my value lies as a business owner. I can tell you there was one client who there's partners and they're in separate cities. I don't know how they run their, I guess they just run their business online, but they're partners in separate cities and they're meeting in Salt Lake City, I think, to do the shoot. And the day before, the videographer who I had hired lets me know he can't do it. So I'm like, that's super cool. But I was able to just go back through the Facebook, ad that I put out and all the responses I got, because you put out an ad like that in any city and you're going to get 100 responses. And I was able to find someone who was able to do it the next day, and they loved him. So it was totally fine. I, saved the day and worked out great.
I have a question on the amount of deliverables. So you do it in 4 days, and that gives them enough content for, you said, how many days was it? 90 days?
Well, 2 days is 180 days worth of content he mentioned, and then he gets editors to produce 2 videos a day. That was the next thing I was also going to ask about, is how has that been going?
So hold on, the question I have though is how many videos then are you technically filming in the 6 hours?
We're shooting about 90 videos. So we aim to get about 184 videos done in 2 days. So roughly, that takes about 90 videos a day, 92 if you want to be specific.
Okay. That's a lot. Okay.
I
would love to just hang around for 6 hours and see how you do it.
It's 5 minutes of video, basically. 5 minutes of video,
yeah.
Literally.
But I mean, again, you're only filming, these are 1 minute videos, or even less than 1 minute in some cases. So because you're limited to the 1 minute, and the way I watch for that is just by watching the clock run on the camera, and I'm like, all right, ready to go. And they're like, ready, go. And they do their thing, and I'm watching the time, and kind of, I have kind of my editor sense, because sometimes they stop and have to start over, or, whatever it is, but I can be like, yes, this will be a minute. Or occasionally it'll run for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'm like, all right, this is part 1, part 2. I'm just going to make that note, and we're going to split it into part 1, part 2. So we do things like that often. I had one gentleman who he could barely do 30 seconds at a time. So which is fine, but you do want to algorithmically aim for that like 34-second mark, because the watch time is the most important thing. And if they don't hit that about 34 seconds, then they have to get 100% watch time, or it's not going to like log anything good in the algorithm for you. So you do want to kind of push them for a little bit more if they're kind of, if they're short.
Oh, so so you might have some videos where they're not even a minute long. They might be half that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It totally depends on the person. But the short ones, if they're really short, you got to be like, all right, can you give me a little bit more? Cause I need more than this, like 20 seconds you gave me, like, give me more. But some people just kind of, for lack of a better way of saying it, they won't shut up. They just roll through it. But it's actually easier to break that up than to extend something that is too short. So I kind of prefer those people.
Yeah, because the longer content is easier to just kind of split up in half, whereas like the shorter content, you're getting them to elaborate, and sometimes that elaboration is very vague or not really tying in the content super well. I'm wondering though also like because it's become like a system, I'm assuming that it's kind of like a package that you're providing all these potential leads. And depending on also like how you charge for it, is it something you work with mostly small businesses, or have you found like a little bit of a range?
So what I found lately, or I guess what I've discovered is, if the business is too small, number one, they can't really afford this. And I mean, we are like doing all of effectively we're doing all of their social media stuff. Like, because video is such a powerful platform to be doing social media on, because right now some short form content is kind of dominating it, you don't technically need anything else. You don't have to have like Instagram, photo posts or anything like that. Like, it's not necessary. So there's that to consider. So we are providing kind of a full social media management. We're doing the like descriptions and the tags and all that stuff. So we're providing a kind of a premium service there. It's not so expensive though that I would say what I consider a medium, not the SBA considers a medium-sized business, have like 200 to 500 employees or something crazy like that. But what I would consider a medium business, from my perspective, they can afford it. But I think that I really feel like it's got to be the right fit for the company, because they have to. They can't use this as a direct. So let me backtrack a bit. So one thing that I've been pushing for this is, again, because coming back to my company, wanting to solve business problems. The other thing we're solving is that you're not just, if you're doing this right anyway, you're not just creating content for content's sake, but you're creating this as a lead magnet. So you're trying to drive people to a website, or to take some kind of action, to click a link in your bio, to do whatever you want them to do something at the end of the video. So I have a whole system and flow where I show people exactly how this works, but they can basically put a call to action that's going to drive customers eventually down the line. So with that said, though, this cannot be your only lead generation source and be reliable, because again, this is organic social media we're talking about. So first of all, if you're like a local company, it's not going to work for you at all, because you might get 1 million views, but if your business is here in Portland and those 1 million views are in New York, none of them are going to lead to any kind of business. So you do have to, your company has to fit a certain profile, that you have some kind of national offering. And then secondly, it's kind of a big, slow moving ship, because you're growing a social media account, which takes, upwards of a year, on average, if you're doing everything right. And then also, if you need to make changes, we can make changes, but we're already edited 30 days in advance. So we've already got 30 days of stuff, going out by the time you make a change. So it's going to take a month or two for any changes to implement and to actually be seen. So so it is a big, slow-moving ship, which is kind of one of the weaknesses of it. And again, like, your company has to be ready and willing to invest in a social media campaign, which, like, honestly, I don't recommend for every single company. Like I said, like, local companies, smaller companies, like, there are better places for you to spend your money, honestly, which, I can also help you with, but that, like, this is not it's a really sexy offer, and that's why I offer it, but it's not always the best thing for every single company, which is why I love to talk to companies to find out if they're going to be an actual good fit for this, or if there's something else I can offer them, or if I can refer them to someone, or, that's what I love doing at the end of the day, is helping companies grow.
It's not even the small ones. Sometimes it's even the large size corporations where, we've chatted with them and then they don't want to focus on social media at all. It just doesn't drive their business forward. So
it's great that you've come up with a very specific customer profile for this, because sometimes that's one of the biggest challenges for people in our industry, is coming up with the exact target market of who they're trying to kind of sell for, or the niche, basically. So you've kind of niched out something for this specific product, rather than more so like a niche that your company in general focuses. It's like, these types of videos are only for these types of clients, and those are the ones I'm going to target. I also noticed that you have some content similar to that you did on your own social media and Instagram. Like, how have you found your own product working for you over the last little while?
If I'm perfectly honest, it hasn't worked very well for me. I haven't seen much response from my own content, and I, haven't had the time, I mean, technically I'm not a solopreneur, but it feels like I am a lot of the time, because I'm running the whole show, and I haven't had the time to really analyze that closely and see why it's not working. But I feel like one of the elements that I've been missing of late, which I'm going to be incorporating into this in the future, is the account growth. So getting more eyeballs on it faster than kind of the organic process. And that's kind of, in an unfortunate place we find ourselves in on the social media front, is like, you gotta pay someone to get eyeballs on your content, or they're not, or get very lucky, it seems like.
have you, I noticed your TikTok's offline on the website. Have you used other social platforms aside from like maybe Instagram to try to push it?
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I noticed when we were posting our Creators Grab Coffee reels on Instagram, like, the views were random. Some would do really well, some would do okay, but then we noticed that on TikTok it was doing pretty well, and then the views were consistent. Like, we could see like a pattern, and then we noticed on YouTube Shorts it was totally random. Like, some of them
all
would
over
get
the place.
2 views, some of them will get 1,000. Like, I had no idea how YouTube runs their algorithm. So I wonder if you're running into the same thing with your Instagram, because I was looking at your Instagram page over there, and they're pretty low. But maybe if you tested it out on like TikTok, they might be higher.
So I'm running the ones that I was running. We're going to everywhere. So they were going to TikTok. They were going to Instagram. They started on Facebook. They went on my LinkedIn, and I think that's it. I don't think I was doing Twitter or anything like that.
I was gonna say, just before you continue, do you think it might be the solution? Do you think that Left Mind might not fit your own target market criteria? Do you think that could be potentially it?
I always try to drink my own Kool-Aid. So with that, I was like, I've got to at least, do this for myself, try it out for myself, test it on myself, do all that stuff. So I got the system working for me, and it worked. Like, I put out a whole ton of content. People were commenting on it, but again, they were mostly people who I already knew through, local networking or something. They're like, I'm seeing your stuff everywhere. I'm like, that's great. You're not who's supposed to be seeing it, but it's cool that you're seeing it.
Yeah, I've had that too with like people within my network where they've seen like our videos and then they're like, I'm seeing it. It's like, great. You're not really gonna be a client of mine though, so it's like great.
The worst is when you pay for ads and they say that, and you're like, you're not
Yeah.
paying for that view. I paid for that view.
Don't click. That's $3.
Oh man. But we've gotten work out of people seeing us do the podcast, because then they know we do podcasts, right? So then they say, hey, we were thinking of doing it. And, I was gonna ask you something. With regards to how you're posting your stuff, do you post, or even for your clients, do you do everything manually, or do you have like some type of service you use?
Yeah, so I mentioned before repurpose.io, which sees any content and automatically posts it to other places. It even takes care of the kind of irritant of like watermarks, like you used to post on TikTok, and has a watermark if you save it elsewhere. So this doesn't have that. So it's a really nice service, because also a kind of side benefit is when my clients, if they want to make their own short form content, that's totally fine. They just need to post it to their Facebook, and it will automatically post all over their network in about 2 hours. So that's been really nice, having that system. So I'm using these tools in a very specific way to set that up. And for posting, you can use technically the because we're using Facebook as our base, so you can use the Facebook scheduler, but that only allows you to post out 10 days. So I wanted to be able to post out further than that. So we're using postly.ai.
And is there any risk of maybe like these social media platforms seeing like the repurpose.ai website and then maybe like blacklisting your account or like blocking you? Because I remember in the past, like, that used to be an issue with some schedulers. Like, some people might it might trigger something on their end, and then your account might get blocked.
I don't think there's any risk of the account being blocked, but there's some debate still on the internet about whether or not the algorithm prefers it, So if you post something directly and natively on TikTok, for example, it's supposed to do better. If you post it natively on Instagram, it's supposed to do better. There's counter arguments for all of it. There's arguments and counter arguments for everything. So that's the way we've been doing it for now. We haven't tested. We haven't had enough clients really yet to test if it makes a difference if we post it individually everywhere. But the problem with posting it individually everywhere, especially these days, is the 2-factor authentication. And so you'd have to, like, every single day, you'd be messaging your client saying like, "Hey, can I get into your account?" It's like, no, I don't. I don't want to do that. Yeah. It's annoying enough when something goes offline, in repurpose or something, to have to message them and do that. So I don't want to do that. So that's why I'm sticking with repurpose for now.
How long have you now been doing this system, or kind of like been trying to start? Have you been executing it so far?
About a year, I think, probably.
So fairly new still. It's not. You're still kind of like trying to figure out the ins and outs of it as you go, right?
Yeah, a little bit. We brought on a client recently, and we got it all up and running pretty smoothly. So I don't think there's any major hangups, but I haven't really had the chance to scale it or anything like that. Or like I said, like, do any major testing with it. It's been a fairly slow rollout over the year.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, it's a slow burn where like even making adjustments on the go for the client, it takes at least 30 days to even see the changes being posted, which also for the algorithm takes another probably 30 to 60 to 90 to 120 days for it to actually make an impact on the algorithm. So yeah, when it comes to trying to do anything organic, it's going to take a while. So you'll probably get a better sense of how effective it can be within like another year or two at least, from at least like with some of the earlier clients, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Do you still do other types of video content as well, or do you mostly focus on this now? Like what's the kind of balance that you're trying to kind of figure out here?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, I do a lot of other stuff. So, I just I honestly, like these last few months, I've been doing a lot of shoots for restaurants. Like when I have extra time, I just have shot it for an agency. So I've been doing that. I still do a lot of video business cards, which were kind of the thing I got started on. So they're brand videos, whatever you want to call them. It's every business videographer's kind of bread and butter is those kind of videos. And I've made a few ads. I'm starting to run Facebook ads and do full funnel offers now. So yeah, I'm doing a bunch of other things.
Are you having success with the ads? The Facebook ads and whatnot?
So I've had a rocky relationship with Facebook ads and in the past, and they to the point where they blacklisted my account.
Did you do yell
and they
at them
wouldn't
or something?
So the funny thing about that is at the time I was in a like a training program. I was going through and I was putting out this ad that was recommended, and it was like the exact same ad that, me and the 6 other people in this group were putting out all at the same time.
Oh, that's what it was.
It's a video ad?
Yeah, video ad. And for some reason they chose me to block my account. And all those other ones were running just fine, but mine got blocked. You were
unlucky. You were the 6th one.
Yeah, I guess so. So and the worst thing about it is they will not tell you why. They just say, you violated our terms of service, and you say, what? Which terms of service? And they're like, we're not telling you.
You know what? I get it. I get it. It's the same with Google. Google has this weird thing, especially when you're trying to verify your business sometimes. That is something Dario and I are having like a problem right now.
We can't figure out a way to verify our new address.
Like they're basically telling us we have to film the whole video from start to end, no cutting, it has to be on their platform. We did it several times and it said video couldn't upload. It's like,
you're like, okay,
it doesn't tell you
how
why.
am I supposed to verify this thing then?
Like what happened?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Like it's now a thing because like before we had the issue of basically where they would send a code to in a letter to your address.
That's how I did it.
Yeah, that's how everyone did it like a few years ago. And then for some reason when we finally changed our address, I think like 2 years ago, they said they sent the code. We never got it. Turns out what happened is that it went to a wrong address, but we didn't find out till later. But it was like a West versus East kind of thing. But when we were trying to get in touch with them, we basically were starting to we told them we didn't get the code. And then they started telling us, okay, let's do a live call. And then you need to show us this, this, and this. And so I would do the live call with them once and then show them like 3 of the things that they were asking for. And then they would say, oh, but do you also have this? And it's like, what are you talking about? You didn't say I needed this for the call. And it's like, well, you need to do it. So I schedule another one. I get that one. I show them the new stuff and the old stuff. And then they're like, oh, what about this? It's like, can you just tell me all the parameters that you need included? I got
like, no.
3 calls I had. The 3rd call, it still didn't work. And I like during that call, I said, so you guys also send these codes, right? They're like, yes. And it's like, so if I sent this code to a random address and in that address, I just, even if I'm not actually there, I just grab the code and then I input it home, it's going to work.
Stupid.
And then the guy's like, yeah, it'll work. I'm like, You do realize how dumb this whole thing is, where you're making me jump through hoops over video call when I could just get the code. And then like a week later, we got the new code finally, and I just did it through that.
Thank God. I went back to the address. I'm like, something's missing here. Like, what are we doing wrong? And yeah, that's when I noticed. I'm like, oh, there's the same address on the east side or on the west side. We're on the east side. So whatever Eglinton Avenue East, that's ours. But it was going to the west end.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So dumb. So dumb.
So we finally got it. We had the address for 2 years, but we wanted to change our address to somewhere downtown, like get like a remote working space downtown that we could work out of. And now they changed the system where they don't send out those codes anymore. And
I don't know if it's not uploading it, because when I was trying to figure out a way to do it, I was trying to see if there was another method. So I selected, like, I went through the menu system, which was a fucking disaster. Like, god damn, like Google, I don't know who they hired to design their system, because I was trying to figure out an alternative way to do it. So I don't know if that now triggered something in their system where we have to do the live call. Like, what the hell?
But it's not even a live call that they're making us do. They're making us record it through their system. So
no, you have to. It's buried. It's buried.
Oh.
You can figure out the way to do a live call, but it's like within the settings. Like, it's a nightmare.
yeah, they've made it next to impossible for small businesses to have a Google address.
It's terrible.
Okay, I think we're nearing like the 1 hour mark already with the episode. How did you come up? Well, I guess you already mentioned how you came up with Left Mind. Yeah.
He's left-minded. That's how he came up with it.
But yeah, Jason, thank you so much for joining us in the episode. Did you have any, before we go, did you have any questions for us or anything like that? Or
Would you want to start a new episode?
I was going to say, Kirill, now is not the time. We could talk about a post-show if you want.
yeah.
But thanks for having me on, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let me just do a shout out for you, your URL and whatnot. So, guys, if you want to find Jason, go to leftmindmedia.com, and your socials are the same, I'm gonna guess. Let me see, at leftmindmedia. Yeah. On Instagram,
yep,
are you on TikTok still, or?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go give him a follow, and he's based out of Portland. So we'll end the episode there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Lapse Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.